Stride first released back in 2020 and the parkour for its time was very impressive and left gamers wanting more, and Joyway promised to add a campaign to Stride, but that never actually happened and instead opted to release a standalone title now known as Stride FATES. This was released last November on Quest 2, Quest 3 and PCVR. And near the end of this review, I will drop my comparisons between the Quest 3 and PSVR2 versions for those of you like me considering buying the game for PSVR2. I also checked out the enhanced Quest 3 version, so we have a lot to go over. Back in my previous review, I had some issues which prevented me from giving Stride FATES an instant buy recommendation, and that honestly hasn't still changed today. But to Joyway's credit, they have successfully brought a Mirror's Edge to VR, albeit an indie version, and this still stands as Joyway's flagship game. The feeling of swinging through massive cities that look semi-populated and the climbing and vaulting around the outside of buildings can feel really good. When you hookshot on a drone to swing across a huge gap and then shooting enemies in slow motion is when the game really shines, and all in all, it does feel awesome. The physics combat can be pretty satisfying when the hit detection lands, leading to a very satisfying punch in the face for example, but more often than not, especially the hand-to-hand combat can feel more frustrating than satisfying. You'll come across 3 enemy varieties and they all pretty much look the same, however they do wear different sunglasses and face masks, and when it comes to them wearing sunglasses you can smash them on their face, which is pretty enjoyable. There's also some mid-game bosses with miniguns and sniper rifles, but unfortunately they don't pose much threat. Stabbing the enemy or hitting them with a variety of pipes and hammers feels good, but on PSVR2 I had some issues when it comes to like flipping your knife for example to say stab someone in a downward motion in the back. The level design can also feel a bit repetitive, and a couple of times I left the map by accident, but luckily it didn't crash the game. I simply just had to go back to the point where the issue happened and then I could carry on. The main gripe I previously had when I reviewed Stride FATES still stands, and that is the game just gives you so much ammo, and you can simply headshot your way throughout the game and the enemies still pose no real threat. And when you eventually get the shotgun, it feels damn near impossible to feel under threat at all, and that's before unlocking any upgrades, which obviously makes you more powerful. You will have 3 weapons throughout the game at your disposal, a pistol, a shotgun and an SMG, but they have no real physics and two-handing a weapon is a pretty bad experience. In the one part DLC I got to play on PSVR2, you will get a katana. That can be satisfying, leading to some cool slicing mechanics, but that's when the game chooses to register the hit correctly. Throughout the missions you'll have to search for upgrade pouches, and at the end of every mission you can spend these on upgrading your weapons. So to be clear, when the game works well, the combat can be very entertaining. I also in my previous review had a lot of issues with the grabbing detection, but to be fair that hasn't really been an issue today on Quest 3, but it does not feel as good on PSVR 2. The previous issues I had with the hookshot not working when I wanted it to haven't happened at all, and in my playtime today, the checkpoint system has also been much fairer, which is obviously a positive. Now before I get to my summary, the real problem with Stride is the more you play, the less you care about the enemy. NPCs aren't very clever, and in combination with these easy headshots I mentioned earlier, especially when you can slow down time pretty much constantly via a cooldown mechanic, means after a while you feel like you're simply just going through the motions to get to the next level. When you combine it all, what you're left with is a game that is okay but not brilliant with some cool moments, and my previous review had the completion time at around 5 hours, but obviously now we have DLC, and to complete DLC part 1 took me around 20 minutes. And with that all being said, I still feel the current price of $30 still seems a bit steep overall, and I think $20 is definitely more of what should be on offer. So now onto the PSVR2 port and the enhanced Quest 3 version. When it comes to playing ports of games, I always like to take the time to check out the latest versions, especially when a game comes from Quest 2 to PSVR2. The results in the past have been mostly positive with games like Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, Zombieland, Walking Dead Saints and Sinners especially. These games expand the graphical gap between Quest and PSVR2, making them much closer to the PCVR versions and sometimes even better. This of course depends on the developer's skills to utilize the PS5 and the technology of PSVR2 such as eye tracking and dynamic foveated rendering. When these are used correctly, the results can be fantastic, but Stride FATES on PSVR2 isn't going to wow anyone, and unbelievably the Quest 3 version for me looks more solid and more polished. Joyway have sent an email today stating anti-aliasing is improved as well as brightness, but if you are looking for a great PSVR2 game, I would consider looking elsewhere. This looks more in line with the Quest 2 port, in all honesty, meaning the PCVR version is still the best, followed by Quest 3 and PSVR2 in third place. This may change of course in time, but I can only report on what I've experienced today. To summarise overall, Stride Fates is an okay game with some cool moments, but still lacks polish, especially on PSVR2. The gameplay can feel a bit numbing over time, especially when it comes to the combat, but when everything lines up and you come across some of these cool set piece moments in the levels, you will have some epic parkour action moments that really do feel fantastic in VR. I really hope this helps you make a decision, and if it does, please leave a like and please subscribe for more VR content, and I'll see you on the next one.